What have you learned today?
Well, firstly, I really enjoyed the race. If I'm honest, it was difficult. I knew it was going to be difficult today. Starting for 12th. We're not where we want to be. We're lacking clearly a lot of pace. We've lost some performance over the past certain races, and we know where it is, and we're just waiting for a fix to regain some of it. So for us to be at the back of the top 10 is it's definitely not easy for the whole team. But yeah, once I got past the Haas, then I got onto the soft medium tire. I was feeling really optimistic. The car was like coming back alive, and I was really thinking there's potential to catch the guys. Wish we had a safety car, but that never came. But then obviously I lost a lot of time behind Charles, and in that moment for sure I was like, come on, like let's make a concise, let's make a decision really quick. Let's not waste time. And yeah, I'm sure people didn't like certain comments, but I mean it was just you got to understand it's frustrating. People say way worse things than I say, so it was more sarcastic than anything, and I'm not frustrated now. I just we'll work internally. We have discussions and we'll keep pushing.
Is it part of your job and Charles's job to help them sort of sharpen up these strategy decisions, these strategy calls, because the going backwards and forwards seem to affect both of your races?
Yeah, I think, it was the same when I was at Mercedes. They don't want to upset one driver or the other. You saw when I was in China, the way my mind works, I'm clearly holding the other car up. And of course, personally, I don't want to lose that place, but if it means the team can get further ahead, I want that for the team. So that's why I decided to let Charles pass in China, for example. But then today I was on a different strategy. I was on a much quicker tire at the time. Charles was clearly struggling a little bit just then, and it took a long time for everyone to see it, and by then it was too late. But yeah, we'll discuss it, and I think ultimately it's about talking about it internally and it's not getting emotional about it. We're here to race. We're not where we want to be, but as I said, it was fun still today for me.
Good, pleasure, fun. Thank you.
Well, Fred, you picked up some points today. Interesting weekend. Obviously, it's been a positive weekend with Lewis P3 in the sprint. A lot of people around the world, particularly in the UK, will be listening to Lewis's radio messages. Just explain from Ferrari's point of view that situation.
No, I can understand the frustration of the guys into the car, but at the end it was well executed because Lewis was behind Charles. He was with a softer compound. We let him go, and then as per internal rule into the team, we swapped back at the end. I think we let the chance to Lewis to go in front of Charles. It was impossible to overtake between them if we don't let them go. And I think it was the opportunity for Lewis to catch up Antonelli, and I think we did a good job.
Maybe there was a perception from Lewis of a delay and decisions could have been made quicker?
Yeah, for sure, but you need to understand in this situation if you are faster than the car in front of you because you have the DRS or if you have the pace. And we took one lap to take a decision and then one lap to apply the decision. It's not that we spend the afternoon.
All right, and just sum it up. I mean, Lewis, he was talking about where the car is lacking at the moment. Moving to Imola, your home, one of your two home races, of course. Where do you feel the car is? Are you far off? Or on the right circumstances, are you closer than it might seem?
Depend of the reference. If you consider the reference is Red Bull and Mercedes, I think we are in the ballpark and we can fight with them if we are a better starting position. If you consider the reference is McLaren, today it was a bit more difficult.
Yeah, things started to come alive. I was getting excited. I was P8 and I got this fresh tire and I clearly had a lot more pace in the car ahead. So in that moment I was like, come on, let's utilize it. Let's catch up the McLarens. And so I was hyped, and just a lot of time was lost in the scenario that we had, and of course in the heat of moments it's frustrating, but we will go back to, we'll internally work it out, figure out how we can improve. I'm sure there's some sensitivities. I'm not feeling sensitive. We're not where we want to be, Charles and I, so yeah.
Welcome back to Miami, everybody. Part 2 of our drivers' press conference. Closest to me, Nico Hulkenberg, then George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Let's start with the man closest to me, Nico. Good to see you. Now, since the high of Melbourne, the P7, it's been a little tougher going for you and Sauber. Just tell us about the performance of the car. Have you found the limit of it yet?
Well, I hope not, and I hope that we can, shift the limit up, as the season goes on. Yes, it's true, the last couple of races, I think it's been difficult. On some tracks, we were a bit more competitive than on others. I think Jeddah in particular, feeling quali, we didn't maximize the potential, and in the race, we simply weren't competitive enough. So like I said, I feel it's a little track dependent, and anyway, in the midfield is so tight that you have to be perfect on the execution every time to get something meaningful. So that's where we are. I think we are aware, that we still have a lot of work ahead of us, but we're not that far away either.
Track dependent. What kind of track suits the C45? Faster tracks, by the sound of it.
I think not necessarily. I think. No, I wouldn't say that. Maybe from what we've seen so far, maybe actually a bit more the low and medium speed, which obviously here is a little bit more content of that. But we'll find out. And temperatures also in conditions always play a role.
The team is building up to the arrival of Audi next year. What do you want to see Sauber do over the remainder of this year? Would you like to see them switch everything and focus on 26? Or do you think you need to build some momentum this year as well?
I think it's very important still to build momentum this year. Everything we do now somewhat, also matters next year. Of course, different set of regulations, but I think, we have to push on parallel. I'm sure that's what, everyone is doing, and especially the big teams. But I, still want to see some progress this year, and, we want to, score more points. It's still a long year. We're still pretty early in the season, so still, a lot to play for.
All right, thank you very much for that. George, let's bring you in now. 3 podiums from the opening 5 races. Is that a tally that matches with your pre-season expectation?
No, I think it's probably better than our pre-season expectations, to be honest. The pace has fallen out where we thought, that step behind McLaren, and then a close fight with Red Bull and Ferrari, and we've been doing really well to get those podiums, but I don't think it necessarily, and we're nicely P2 in the teams championship, but I don't think it necessarily means we are the second fastest team. I think sort of on average we've been the third fastest team. We saw obviously Charles had a great race last week, and obviously Max also the last couple of races, but we've just been nicely consistent and picking up points.
Consistent, yes, but it looked like Saudi was the most difficult of the races so far. Having had a chance to debrief with the team, what conclusions have you reached?
I mean, tyres were too hot, really, so that was a big problem, and I think just pushing a bit too hard to try and keep up with the front two, and Charles put in a really, really strong race, and I was probably driving too quick for what the tyres and the car was capable of, and then we dropped off the cliff. So not too sure how this weekend's going to pan out, because I think in terms of temperatures and the tyres, it'll be relatively similar to Jeddah. So we'll have to wait and see any of the learnings we've taken from last week we can translate into a bit of performance. But I'm confident the quali pace will sort of be there or thereabouts, but it's the race pace there's a bit more of a question mark.
All right, George, thank you for that. Good luck. And Lewis, good to see you. It feels like this is a big weekend. Your first race for Ferrari in the USA. You've got the Met Gala on Monday. We know what you're wearing in the car. Can you tell us what you're wearing on Monday?
I don't even know, if I'm honest.
Really?
Not putting much thought to it.
Look, you're co-chair of the Met this year. Just how much have you enjoyed that experience?
It's amazing working with Anna and her team, and it's been a privilege. I mean, to be able to continue to do stuff in fashion is fun, but Anna's been really understanding. I haven't had a lot of time to do a huge amount with it, but the work has been in drips over the past 2 years already with Anna, so excited for people to see it.
Well, Lewis, let's bring it on track. Now, it's been a little bit frustrating these last few races for you, but we've seen stints in races where the car and you have been really competitive. What is stopping you repeating that performance, those quick stints?
Many things, lots of different things. There's not one particular.
Is there anything we can talk about here, having been back to the factory?
Not particularly. I mean, I just when I joined Mercedes, the first 6 months was tough. Getting attuned to working with new people. Obviously, the engineers that I'm working with now are used to setting up a car for a different driver and a different driving style, and I'm used to driving a car with a different driving style, and so it's just a combination of a bunch of different things.
Are you able to drive this car instinctively, or are you having to think consciously while you're in it?
I would say you're generally always a mixture of the two. But I'm definitely working hard to adjust to this one for sure.
All right. Well, what about this weekend in Miami? What can we expect from you and Ferrari?
No clue. We'll do the best we can, and yeah, we've not got upgrades or anything this weekend, but we continue to try and optimize the car. And obviously, Charles in the last race did a fantastic job and showed what the car can do in a race. So the goal is to try to replicate that.
All right, good luck with that. Okay, thank you. It's busy room in here. Let's go to the broadcasters next. Start with Craig.
Yeah, Craig Slater, Sky Sports. Question for George, actually, with your GPDA hat on. The President Mohammed bin Sulayem has said that after constructive feedback with drivers, he's looking at making improvements to the rules that govern the driver conduct issues and so on. I just wanted to know, do you think that's a very positive step, George?
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, yes, but obviously we want to see these things put into action rather than saying, we're considering things. We all consider a lot of things. We're clear we want changes, and once they are implemented, then we'll comment on it. But for the time being, it's being considered, so it's just, the words don't mean anything until the change has been made.
Okay, David?
Question to Lewis, David Croft, Sky Sports. Hi, Lewis. Carlos Sainz has said today that you can't just show up at a team and be 2 or 3 tenths quicker. It's just not possible than your teammate who's there and established at the team. Is that true, or did we see in China with the sprint that you can do that and your car is probably more suited to the sprint at the moment than a Grand Prix? Just try and explain a little bit as to why that was so good in China, and is this weekend a plus for you given it's a sprint weekend?
I can't really explain it too much. I mean, in a sprint race, obviously there's not a huge amount of changes you make. I think the one thing to take from it is that we didn't make a lot of changes, if actually any changes, going from P1 to then quali, as where on all the other weekends we've been tinkering with the car and making it worse. So yeah.
And on the subject of not turning up, and on the subject of you can't turn up and be 2 or 3 tenths quicker than your teammate, is that true, or do you think that is possible?
I mean, there's elements of that are true, but I mean, it's different for everyone. So,
all right, next one, Albert.
Albert Fabregal, ESPN Latam. A question for you all three. I'm sure you reviewed last Grand Prix corner 1, lap 1 incident between Oscar and Max. Do you feel that the penalty of 5 seconds penalty was correct? It was 10 seconds, or it was you think that it was no further action? What's your opinion?
Nico, let's start with you.
You always take me first on these, Tom. Thank you.
You're close.
Well, I think these guys are fighting for the championship. You know what it looks like right now, and probably that will continue like this. So. There's no gift, when you fight for a championship and in racing in general, and it's lap 1 action, turn 1, you come with quite high speed, even though it's not the longest of runs. So for me personally, I think it's part of racing, and these kind of things just happen.
What about?
Same. Sorry, Albert. Right, next one.
Yeah, this is Merve Gallia from Viaplay. Nico, you are no more the only racing father in the paddock. Do you have some advices for Max? Maybe some diaper advices?
You know that for a fact.
At
I don't know.
In the near future, in coming days. He's not here for this week, today.
Yeah, it's true though. It's a fun fact that I was the only, since Checo and K-Mac left at the end of last year, was the only dad. So yeah, he's joining that club, and I hope it's a good sleeper. We've been quite fortunate and lucky, but yeah, I think lots to discover. Many beautiful and nice things that come with that.
Lewis Hamilton didn't come to Ferrari for confusion. But at the Miami Grand Prix, confusion showed up with a headset. In a race where McLaren sealed a 1-2 and Verstappen lost grip of his championship lead, Ferrari, again, beat themselves. Hamilton's radio said it all. "Why don't we just take a tea break or something?" The tone was reasonably sarcastic. In just a year of the biggest driver-team partnerships in decades, Ferrari looked slower in the garage than on track. And this time, Hamilton didn't hide how he felt. Miami literally tested execution and raw pace. Oscar Piastri had both. The Australian took control on lap 14 and never looked back. Behind him, Lando Norris climbed from P6 to P2. Wasn't it a statement from a driver once questioned for inconsistency? McLaren seemingly planned the race, owned it, and walked out looking like favourites for the title. They got the calls right. They managed their tyres and they let their drivers race when it mattered. That's what top-tier teams do, and unfortunately, it's also what Ferrari didn't. Let's rewind. In lap 27, Hamilton's on fresher tyres. He was chasing Leclerc faster by nearly a second. But there's no switch, no instruction, and clearly no logic. He's stuck in dirty air behind his teammate again. That's when Hamilton's radio turns on, "Box me or let me go." That was likely a built-up rage. Moving to the next lap, the Englishman is still behind, and 2 laps after that, he's finally allowed through. By then, it's already over. The track position is lost and tyre advantage is gone. Ferrari tripped hard over themselves. It was not the first time though. Bahrain, Shanghai, and now Miami. This season, Ferrari seemingly keeps making their drivers race each other before racing anyone else. Hamilton defended his comments after the race. "I was just like, come on, guys. I just want to win. I've still got that fire in my belly. I can feel a little bit of it really coming out there. I'm not going to apologise for being a fighter. I'm not going to apologise for still wanting it. And I know everyone in the team does too." Leclerc wasn't thrilled either. He called the race messy and said he had no idea what the plan was. This is absolute misalignment, say analysts. Fred Vasseur may preach patience, but Hamilton is 40. He came to Ferrari for podiums. And right now, Ferrari isn't giving him either. George Russell quietly delivered. He started P5, avoided the mess, managed his tyres, and grabbed a well-earned P3. Mercedes' best result since Australia. But fans noticed something off. He skipped the press conference. Turns out, it wasn't mind games but stomach trouble. A last-minute diet change apparently didn't sit well. Still, Russell's racecraft is improving each weekend. While Ferrari misfires, he's creeping up in the standings. Hamilton's future may be in red, but the silver arrows aren't done yet. Coming to Red Bull, it started fine, but suddenly, Oscar passed the Dutchman. Then Lando did too. By lap 30, Verstappen was in survival mode. There were no major errors, there were no answers either. He finished 4th, behind both McLarens and Russell. For the first time this year, Verstappen doesn't lead the Drivers' Championship. Christian Horner called it a learning weekend. The veterans kept on chasing performance, while an 18-year-old stole the show. Andrea Kimi Antonelli took pole in the sprint and finished 6th in the main event. He even handled post-race questions better than some team bosses. Toto Wolff tried calling him Andrea, then Kimi, then laughed it off. The point is, Mercedes has something here, and if Hamilton doesn't find his pace back soon, Antonelli might end up carrying the flag. Miami was loud on and off track. Pitbull performed in leather and fans almost melted in the heat. But the loudest moment came from Hamilton's SF25. He called out Ferrari, and somehow that felt inevitable. Was this leadership ignored? Stick around, because if Ferrari doesn't fix this, Lewis might do more than just talk. Subscribe if you haven't already.